Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so delighted to be with Anahita Aggarwal. Seeing her after 5 years. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
it's great to see you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
And uh, how was life at New York City, at Barnard, Columbia
yeah,
University, and everything else since the time we just pushed you to
yeah,
college?
yeah, yeah. It's been a lot of change and it's been a long time, but life is good. Yeah, there's a lot to say. But
So let's dive
yeah,
straight in. Happy to
yeah,
uh, quiz you on many things. So very often students look at college as very wide-eyed going in. How was it for you being a high school student from
right,
India and then
right,
moving to uh, familiar but even strange college
right.
setting in New York?
So I'd actually joined during COVID. So my first semester was online, and then my second semester was really complicated. I was on campus, but the classes were online, and then we were all wearing masks while meeting each other. So it was not traditional at all. But I think maybe this is because I specifically went to a liberal arts college. They really made an effort for us to get integrated into the community and things like that. So it wasn't. I think it would have been different if I went to a larger school, but um, so yeah, so I did still get to know people. And then just generally with college, I think it is a really big change, especially if you're going to a new country. But um but staying in touch with people from your home country and things like that can make it easier. And then of course, like a huge part of the change is also a good thing. It's a huge opportunity also.
Yeah, I know while working with you, it was very clear that you had certain interests academically. You were very keen on writing and also learning about the world in general.
Yeah.
What directed your sort of decision to double major in English and neuroscience, which was must have been a journey, right? A lot of
Right.
decisions and experiences.
Definitely. So I started with neuroscience. That's the major I applied with, just because in school my favorite subjects, I did ISC, and my favorite subjects in school were chemistry and actually that's it. That's the subject that I liked. But I liked the applications more, especially with behavior and applying it to different people. So I think neuroscience seemed like a good fit. And once I got to college, I was able to confirm that almost immediately. I really liked my classes. And I always loved reading and writing, but I'd never I never really allowed myself to think of that as a career possibility. But then because it was a liberal arts school, I did the foundations courses. And I realized that, if I like it so much, I may as well just also major in that. And if I get the opportunity to do something with that, then I'll see. And so, I didn't really have a plan about how I was going to connect both majors or something. I was just like independently interested in both of them. And eventually I found ways in which I could combine them. Like I used to write for a neuroscience journal. So that was like a direct intersection of both.
Wonderful. So these are the kind of examples which will really um, be something useful for our students who are in school or in college, and also for
Right,
parents, don't have
right.
view of how this works. So let's break it down. So understanding
Yeah.
neuroscience is also a lot of wet lab work, right? Like there could
Yeah.
be things that one needs to know, what kind of courses to do along the way, what happens in labs, what research opportunities can you be privy to or even participate in. So how was that journey? And then we'll talk about the English major as well.
Right. So I can only speak to my experience at my college, but what happened was that when you take Introduction to Neuroscience, that comes with the lab component. And also you're asked to do Introduction to Biology with a lab component. So you get introduced to them basically in your first or second year within the semester. And then you'll have an academic advisor who usually encourage you to go into research if you're interested in majoring in, one of the life sciences. And they'll also guide you with how to reach out to professors, what programs may be available. Like, for instance, Barnard had a specific program for summer research. And so, I felt supported throughout it. I think college had a lot of safety nets and avenues to help you explore that, even if you don't have any prior knowledge. Um, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Do you have any
Okay.
specific doubts that people come to you with?
Yeah, they just want to know like how does neuroscience or even just biology and chemistry, how is it different from say CDSE or ISC
Okay,
level
okay. That makes sense.
experiences?
I can answer
Are
that
you?
actually.
Yeah, sure, sure,
So
sure.
we have the more technical courses like biology, and then you'll also be asked to take chemistry and things like that. But then neuroscience is really in between psychology and then biochemistry. So it uses the methodology of biology, chemistry, and life sciences, but it relates that to your direct experience as a human being, your behavior, and things like that. So if you're interested in all of these areas without wanting to choose a very specialized one, I think neuroscience could be a good fit because it basically looks at the more empirical understandings of how people work.
Well, yeah, that gets us even more closer to understanding of the kind of outcomes that one could work toward. However, if there's a project that you got involved in early on, or particular lab equipment, or ability to use data sets, or even look at qualitative data sets, what are the skills that you picked up along the way? It could be at the wet lab or even at maybe data science that were useful along the way.
Right. I actually think that data science is an unexpected skill that I picked up. So we had, as one of our requirements, we had statistics and experimental design. And now a lot of lab work does happen using technology. So that's something that I hadn't really expected going in, but it is becoming important now. And anything like when you're using microscopes to really visualize something, or when you're operating like an EEG machine, you will end up using a lot of technology. And then with wet labs, that's honestly pretty similar to the lab work I did in school. So ISC, we had chemistry lab, and I think it was similar, and I really enjoyed that because you feel connected to what you're studying. You get to use your hands, and you basically have a more embodied understanding of the things that you're learning, and I really enjoyed that. I think that was important for me in my journey towards realizing that I really did like this subject.
Mhm. Many universities have like this interface with drug discovery companies or life science companies and research organizations, and sometimes undergrad students get access to project work which is very industry focused, or even independent research you could get involved with, or even just
Right,
sample or intern, etc.
right.
What kind of opportunities did you get in neuroscience in particular that helped you, kind of motivated you to continue with that major or choose that major and then continue and graduate?
Right. So, over 1 year, so 2 semesters, um, I was a research assistant in a particular professor's lab, and she was studying something really interesting. If you want to know, like the details, it's basically we were visualizing the blood-brain barrier because they found that usually you learn that communication in the brain happens in synapses between neurons, but we've recently been discovering more and more that a lot of communication also goes through the bloodstream. And this is a pretty new discovery for neuroscience. So there was one pathway that people found about 100 years ago. And then 2, 3 years ago, they found another pathway, which is pretty new. So I was part of the project, the larger project of investigating that pathway. And my specific job was visualizing a few cells.
Yeah, sure. And also, so how does it work? Like, do you have professors or PhD students guiding
Right,
undergrad?
right. So for me, there was one professor who was pursuing this project as a part of her own research. And then because it was such a large project, there were a few other professors assisting her. And then in my lab, we had a professor who was guiding our specific um, research. And there were also a few PhD students who were involved with, the more advanced procedures.
Great. Now let's talk about English, and
Right,
that's supposedly a very different major, but like in your work
right,
now, you're kind of combining both, right? You need the communication skills to help with
right,
strategy and
right.
decision making. So that's really a good way to look at it. And of course, you might be inspired by many other English majors who are CEOs of tech companies.
Right.
So, or even
So
philosophy majors. Mhm.
right. So, to be honest, my personal ambitions were much more related to pure English major things, like just being a writer. I wasn't, I think there are friends of mine who wanted to go down the other path. But for me, even like if I think about it now, 50 years down the line, I would love to just write um, and have that be my full time job. But it's you also have to adjust according to what industries are creating jobs right now and things like that. And so um and so with English, I found that in different jobs I've taken over time since I started college, not just this one, um communication within your company is obviously important. And then just the ability to, for instance, right now I'm doing prompt engineering, which you'd think is hardcore data science maybe, but it's all about language, and so it's helping me with that. And I think just for anyone, if you have a subject you're extremely interested in, you're able to learn more about yourself through that, and then you can bring more of yourself to whatever you do.
Wonderful. So, in terms of graduating at a time when the world was engulfed with this whole AI disruption and future of jobs was under threat, and AI careers were becoming something that required redefinition. So, how did you navigate a turbulent job market while you were graduating, and how did it actually shape up for you then?
Right. So I think different people have different approaches, but for me personally, I just focused on what my own what I was offering, and I tried to find the right employers that would be a match for that, because part of part of decision making is the changes that are happening in industries and in the world, and then the other part of it is who you are and what you can bring. And that is, if you have sort of a stable core, then that can help you navigate towards whatever your end goal is. And so for me, I knew what skills I had, and I knew, especially because I'd done a double major, I knew the unique skill set that maybe other people wouldn't have. And I focused a little bit less on trying to figure out what the biggest job right now would be and things like that. I just tried to find the right fit for me.
So good to know that you're embracing all the changes as well as looking forward to integrating whatever you love. And so students who are watching, listening should draw inspiration. And it's early days for you as well, right? 1 year out of
Yeah.
college,
Yeah, that's right.
choosing a job which is more industry focused. Your prior job which was more in publication. So it's a journey. It's an ongoing journey. We're so happy to have privy to a peek into
Yeah, of
your life
course.
today.
Yeah.
Uh, in terms of advice to high school students or even current college students, what misunderstandings do they often harbor about careers, trajectories, future goals, education
Right.
that's required for those careers? Anything that's useful would be good to hear from you.
So, the one thing that probably was the most useful to me was that I'd initially gone into college thinking about it only from a career perspective. So even though I knew I liked writing and I liked reading, I never even considered that I should do an English major. I just said I'm going to do neuroscience because I thought that that would have more applications. And I did, and neuroscience did end up being really useful. But because we had a foundations curriculum in a liberal arts college, I got to understand that learning more about yourself, college gives you just such an amazing opportunity to learn more about yourself and really connect with the best minds in your faculty and really learn more about your interests. And that can help you unlock whatever it is that's unique to you. And then you can bring it into another major that you may feel is more applicable to the career you want. So for instance, if you feel that you're really passionate about music, but you want to maybe do an econ major, you can just do both. And you'll find ways to connect those over time.
One last thing, we should have touched upon this earlier. There are clubs, organizations, liberal arts colleges are known for. So,
Right.
how would you rate your experience of choosing clubs, student organizations, learning along the way, and then maybe moving on
Right.
from type of organization and settling into another?
Right. I
And
think
what do
it's
you think?
actually, yeah. I think it's actually really important to
And
join clubs. Yeah.
which ones did you join, and over a period of time, what happened?
Yeah. So a fun one that I used to do was I used to referee soccer games because football is what I call it. But in America, you have to get used to saying soccer. But yeah, I used to be a referee and I found that really fun. I also played a little bit, but it was fun being the one who was kind of telling everyone what to do for a change. So that was something that I just did out of interest. And then a more career related one is that I used to be a staff writer for our neuroscience journal. And that I think finding clubs related to your interests that you may want to pursue is a great thing because you only learn so much in the classroom. But if you connect with other students interested in the same things who are applying what you're learning in different ways, then that can really help you just get more into the world of whatever you're pursuing.
Thanks, Anahita. It is so good to connect today. And I'm sure
Yeah,
over
of
the years,
course.
we'll have more such conversations. And for
Yeah.
viewers who are listening in, any comments, questions that you have, I can direct to Anahita. And yeah, hope to keep the conversation going with everyone. So
Yeah.
thanks for
Yeah.
joining this
Thanks,
morning.
Arjun. Yeah. Thank you for all your help
Oh, you're
with
welcome.
finding me burnout and everything.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thanks. Thanks for thinking about us.